everything, but I will talk like this. He understands me very well. Over to you, Kirti bhai.
Before we start, Dr. Anant, welcome and thank you very much. And Annapurna ji, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much. And I think it was a short time, and I think that you agreed and made time. We are very grateful to you. Chitrakshi, tell me to start, and then we would start it.
Yes, sir. It's you can start.
Start now, okay. So thank you, Chitrakshi. Let me before I always forget to thank Chitrakshi. So let me start with thank you, Chitrakshi. I always forget her, and she's a wonderful girl, and therefore she never takes a problem with me. But I have continuously forget it. So thank you, Chitrakshi, for giving this opportunity to me and to everyone. So friends and colleagues, this is welcome to the 109th webinar. This is 109th webinar of the series Rethinking City that in half has been running for the past 3 years. As you know, and as many of you know, during this period, we have discussed close to 50 urban themes and sub-themes with over 500 urban experts, specialists, professionals, and community groups from across the world who have shared their ideas, perspectives, solutions, and experiences. We really had a huge learning experience in the last 3 years doing this 109 webinars. It's been immensely valuable. Let me start today with thanking Bangalore Navnirman Party for accepting our suggestion to organize a webinar on the most topical issue of Bangalore's water crisis. We are grateful to the General Secretary of the BNP, Shri Shrikant Narasimhan ji. Shrikant Saab, thank you very much, and Soumya ji for accepting our request and organizing this event in such a short time. We are also grateful to the distinguished panel today, consisting of my friend and guru, Dr. Hariharan. Guru Saab, Hari Saab, I call you my guru. Dr.
You'll embarrass me like this.
And Dr. Annapurna Kamath for making time for this event despite a very short notice. Believe me, we're very, very grateful that we are here and you made time for this. The title of this webinar series has been thought through. I'm talking about these 2 webinars today and tomorrow. We call it Bangalore's Water Crisis, Short-Term Measures and Long-Term Solutions. As we know, both are needed. We need short-term measures and long-term solutions. Considering the nature of the crisis, we are also doing a second webinar tomorrow so that we have more ideas, more perspectives, and more solutions to look at. And keeping in view the emergency nature of Bangalore's crisis, we have requested moderator and through him the panel to keep the discussion less on diagnosis and more on prescription. And I repeat this, we very much want more on prescription and less on the diagnosis. We also want a very clear position by Bangalore Navnirman Party that if the party were in power today, what will it do? What will be its short-term measures and long-term solutions of the BNP party? We've requested them to be factual and specific. We all know BNP's commitment to transparency, accountability, and participation. Today, we are looking forward to their action counterparts. We're looking for action counterparts to this wonderful concept with which the party is working. Over the years, while introducing the webinar series on rethinking city, as to why INHAF is doing this and what it wants to achieve, I have emphasized a three-part narrative. One, that we as people, we as government, we as professionals, we as entrepreneurs, we as political decision makers have not understood the enormity and the complexity of India's urban challenge, that we have not understood. That's the first. And that reflects in the quality of cities we have, small and big, industrial and administrative. And be that water or environment or governance or infrastructure, whatever may be the problem. Two, that there are many resources outside the government system, in the private sector, and even in non-profit sector, if we look for them, which could be tapped to address the urban challenge better. This is the second point we have been making continuously. And the third point that we are making is this, that we have emphasized the need to make meeting the urban challenge properly a wider societal partnership. We believe very strongly that we need a societal partnership to deal with urban challenge. And that will allow us to get a better measure and better response to the challenge. Today, I'm not repeating that. I'm not talking about that. Today, I'm presenting a new idea for your consideration and response. As an integral part of meeting the urban challenge collectively in a societal partnership manner. The idea is to put together, and please listen to me very carefully. The idea is to put together, through a collective effort, an urban manifesto for the national election, which has been announced and which is around the corner. The idea is to articulate what should the new government do to meet the urban challenge adequately. And the suggestion is not to call it the civil society or even people's manifesto. The suggestion is not to call it the civil society or people's manifesto. It is what the country should do in the coming 5 years to put in place systems, institutions, and investment plans, not only to improve the cities as the places to live, work, grow, and aspire, but also to define pathways to ensure livable, sustainable, people-friendly, inclusive, and climate-sensitive cities by 1950. And that is not asking too much. The government and the Prime Minister are already talking about Vision 2047. In 2050, India will have close to 870 million people in cities. If we want those cities to be better places, the work should start now. And what better opportunity than a national election where 970 million voters will participate. I await your response to this suggestion because we are working actively on this idea. Please respond. And with this introduction, I request Shrikant Saab to conduct the webinar. Thank you very much. Shrikant Saab, please take over and start. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirti Bhai, and good evening to all the people who have joined. I see that there's a very good participation today. Thank you so much. Thanks to Chitrakshi and Dr. Bhuma from INHAF, who along with Kirtibai have been doing such a wonderful job. Thanks to my colleague Soumya Raghavan. She's been the one who's been coordinating the whole series for some time now, and she's been doing a stellar job. Thanks to the three participants who are going to be part of the panel today, sharing their thoughts around how we're going to solve this problem. Dr. Anand Kodavasal, Dr. Hariharan Chandrasekharan, Dr. Annapurna Kamath. And I was just telling them, I'm feeling I'm having a bit of an inferiority complex surrounded by too many doctors around me. So I hope I'll do a good job today. So let me get quickly into the topic. Today, we are going to talk purely about Bengaluru's water crisis. This could be a problem that could manifest itself in other cities also. But some of us have been working very hard on some of the issues relating to Bengaluru. So I'll restrict myself to Bengaluru. And Kirtibai had made a very specific point that we should talk a lot more about specifics. So I want to be very clear to all the participants. Do not worry. There's nothing theoretical in what we're going to discuss today. There is nothing which is in the air. Many of the things that we are going to talk about today, if not all of them, are practical things that have either been already implemented in small pockets or very easily implementable on a go-forward basis as well, which collectively can help find solutions or help us implement those solutions that we need to solve the huge water crisis that we are facing, which is not a water crisis for this year. 5 years back, the same situation was there. It is going to continue for the future also. So these solutions that we are talking of will not only hopefully help short-term problems, but should help us in the long term. So let me quickly get to something fundamental. This is actually an article that came in one of the newspapers quite some time back with regard to Bengaluru. Day zero is what they were calling at that time. And one of the key things is the government said that by 2031, this I think happened, this article came 3 years back, and it was a 10-year time frame that was provided. By 2031, when Bengaluru's population is estimated to cross 2 crores or 20 million, they said we will have only about 88 liters per person per day availability that will be there in the city. And that's really ridiculous because globally accepted standards are that people should be able to spend at least, or rather a normal human being should be consuming about 135 liters per person per day is a general statistic that I've been seeing, and I think that's a very commonly understood and accepted term. So here is one fundamental thing I wanted to draw everybody's attention to. We keep talking of Bengaluru's water problems. So let's go with that globally accepted norm of 135 liters per capita or per person per day. If we take the population of Bengaluru at about 12 million, as a city, we should be consuming roughly about 1,600 million liters per day, or what is commonly seen as or are commonly understood as MLPD. So at the current population level, Bengaluru needs about 1,600 million liters. Against this, how much of water do we really have? If today we are going through a shortage, it means that we do not have that much of water available. So let's look at the three primary sources of water that Bengaluru has. One is Kaveri water. The government has laid pipelines across the city to reach Kaveri water to every single household. Every single household today does not have it, but I would say about 70 to 80% of the city's population has access to it. And the availability of Kaveri water for the city across the year on an average is about 1,450 MLD. 1,450 million liters per day is the total availability or source of Kaveri water that we have for the city. When we look at rainwater, the water that falls into the Bengaluru city is actually about 3,000 million liters per day. If we were to take 3,000 million liters per day, and if we are able to use even 1/3 of that, I'm not even talking of any number higher than that or any percentage higher than that, 1/3, if you are able to use it effectively, that gives us about 1,000 million liters per day. Then we have these sewage treatment plants. Quite a few of them run by the government, centralized STPs. There are about 14 of them. I think latest count, they might have added one or two more also, but there definitely are 14 large sewage treatment plants, which themselves have a collective capacity of at least about 1,500 million liters per day. If we are able to if we are able to treat the sewage that's coming in and we are able to use that properly, and if you add the private sewage treatment plants that are run in apartment complexes and commercial complexes, that is another 500 MLD easily. So we have probably access to more than 2,000 million liters per day. But even if we take it as 1,500 MLD, these three sources put together alone give us 4,000 million liters per day, or 4,000 MLPD, which means we have 2.5 times water available to us than the consumption that we actually should be consuming. So what is the source of the problem? Why are we in the mess that we are in right now? So if we were to look at the problem, there are only two possibilities. Either the government is going fundamentally wrong on certain aspects, or the citizens are going fundamentally wrong. That is, we are consuming a lot more than what we should be. And like in everything else, the truth probably lies somewhere in between. Citizens have been consuming a lot more water than we should be. Against the norm of 135 liters per person per day, it's very likely. I'm not able to get access to any data that can verify this, but my guesstimate is that as a city and we as citizens, we are probably consuming about 300 to 400 liters per day per person against the 135 liters per day that we should be doing. Of course, the government has miserably failed in understanding what the city needs. They do not understand that the city actually has enough water. It's about tapping it properly and using it properly. But every time a water crisis comes, apart from Kaveri, earlier we were talking of Linganamaki, we were talking of Meghdatu, there has never been a discourse around how do we properly channelize, utilize and tap the water that's coming into our city. That's never been the subject matter of a proper discussion or a serious discussion by the government. So the problem needs to be sorted at multiple ends. And that's where in today's session, I want to talk about what citizens can do, what communities can do. And by communities, I talk about apartment complexes, commercial complexes, or localized RWAs who could organize themselves in the form of communities and also play a part. And of course, what is the government going to do about it? I don't know. But what is it that the government can do? We will talk about it. And for each of these topics, when it comes to what individuals can do, I myself will talk about some of the initiatives that I have undertaken myself and that I've promoted in various apartment complexes through BAF, Bangalore Apartment Federation. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more initiatives like that that can be done. So if we are able to implement those initiatives, we the citizens can do to some extent. Then I'll be talking about what communities can do. At that point of time, I'll bring in Dr. Anant Kodavasal, specifically in the context of sewage treatment plants, which is the predominant source at the community level. Then I'll be talking about what the government can do. At that point of time, I'll like to bring in Dr. Hariharan. He actually made a presentation to various government committees as of even 2 days back. And I understand that he's been closely engaging with the government on some of these aspects. And lastly, the most important aspect is we can't operate in silos. Whatever the citizens are doing, communities are doing, and the government is doing, it has to be brought together. And that's really where I would like to bring Dr. Annapurna Kamath in. And I would like her to share her experiences on the Jakkur Lake, on how communities and the government work together in actually bringing an adequate supply of water or adequate source of water in the Jakkur area and making that area a lot more richer in water. So let's quickly get on to what can citizens do. And these are all very simple things. And the first one is something that I want to now launch as a campaign. All of us are extremely, I would say, irresponsible when taking bath. I was introduced to this concept by a lady called Odette Katrak. Believe it or not, this lady Odette Katrak takes bath with 3 mugs of water. Less than 3 liters of water is what she consumes to take bath. Many of you don't know about this. She introduced me to this idea about 5 years back. I tried, I couldn't get to 3 mugs of water, but then I tried hard, and over a period of time, I was able to achieve that target. But then I find it very difficult to sustain it, particularly when I'm in a hurry to take bath and get it over with. But I can assure you all that I've been taking bath with 5 mugs of water, 5 to 6 mugs if I'm a little bit more irresponsible. And this goes a huge way in solving for the consumption problem that we've been talking of. So I would like to launch a challenge. This is something that I launched a few years back, something called as a half bucket challenge. Today, many people use showers. Many people use a full bucket of water to take bath. Let me launch this challenge today. I challenge each and every one of you. Please take bath, first of all, with a bucket or using a bucket of water. And please don't use a full bucket. Take bath with less than half a bucket. I can challenge you. It's not difficult at all. 3 mugs is possible. I do it with 5 mugs. Odette and 1 or 2 more people that I know now take bath with 3 mugs. This is a beautiful challenge that I would like to present. I want to run a campaign starting from next week on this. If imagine 1.2 crore citizens start doing this, it's a huge saving that we can bring for the city. Of course, there are other things that we talk about, but this is one challenge that's a personal passion for me. I do it on a day in and day out basis. I didn't wait for the crisis to unfold. I take bath with 5 mugs of water, which is about quarter bucket of water that I use, right? But I challenge you all to take bath with half a bucket, and I want to encourage all your family members, all your friends to do the same, and let's see how that reduces the consumption of water at a household level. Apart from that, there are many other things that we've been working on. Aerators. If you don't know what aerators are, please do a Google search. I've tied up with 2 firms, Neopearl and Akriti 365. Both, in fact, 3 firms, Eco 365, Neopearl, and Akriti. All of them provide aerators. You can do a Google search. We'll also be launching a campaign for that. Lalitamba from my team, GC Governing Council, and she's part of the core team. She's been advocating that as well. It's something that reduces the flow of water from taps quite significantly. Apart from that, other things that you would all know, right? We should not be now using water to wash cars. There are many ways of doing waterless car washing. We should use washing machines only with full load and not with half load. Toilet flushers, there are many toilets that are not equipped with the short flush. Many of them end up having the full flush only. But today, many toilets have these short flush. But if you do not have it, please ensure that it's done. And there are people, I haven't still done it. I want to get this done. You could place a bottle of water, or you could place a brick inside the toilet flush. That reduces the consumption. And overall, if all of us start having a conscious awareness about how to use water, we can come down from the 300, 400 liters per day down to the 135 liters per day, or who knows, it could even be lesser than that. Apart from that, at the individual level, RO wastewater, for every liter of RO water that we use, almost about 8 to 10 liters of water goes waste. There's an outlet that we can the water goes into the drain. We can actually catch that water in a bucket of water. We can use that for mopping. There are people who've been complaining that leaves stains. I don't think so. It very much can be done. And then on top of that, there are the washing machine outlets where we can actually capture that water also, and that actually can be used for reusing, at least for car washes, if not for cleaning. So there are multiple ways by which citizens can actively take part in this process of reducing consumption at our individual level and hence at a household level. And if each of us can do that, if we can bring it down from the 300, 400 liters per day that we are doing today, we can bring it down to definitely 135 liters per day, which is a norm. And that itself reduces the load on the city and its water resources quite significantly. So that's one thing that I wanted to talk about. I will move on to what can communities do by talk about organized groups like an apartment community or a resident welfare association or even commercial complexes. This is something I don't want to spend too much of time on. Some of these things we are happy to, let's say, take it offline also on some of our groups if required as well. But broadly, recharge wells and recharge pits. Vishwanath Shrikantaya from Biome, he's going to deliver one more session, or I think he's already delivered a session yesterday. through BAF, I'd engaged with him, and through BNP also, I'm engaging with his team. We want to introduce the concept of recharge wells and pits in many communities and also in public spaces. In my apartment, I'd done recharge wells when I was the secretary about 10 years back. I don't know whether it's because of that or not. Before that, our borewells had run dry. We didn't have any water to use from borewells for sure, and we had started taking tanker water. But I would like to believe that it's a good part of it is because of the recharge wells. In the last 9 to 10 years, we have not had to use water tankers at all. The rainwater that comes in through the recharge wells, it goes into the ground, and our borewells have been giving enough and more water. Even in the current water crisis, we haven't had to rely on water tankers yet. Whereas many of the other places, they've had to rely on water tankers. I would like to credit that to a good part to the recharge wells that we have put in. And there's no reason why more and more communities cannot do it, or we can't even do it in public places. So that's a very important aspect. Of course, STPs are going to be a very important part, and that's where I would like to bring Dr. Anant in shortly. STPs should be functioning properly. From whatever I understand, many of the STPs in the city, including the centralized STPs run by the government, are not run properly. And if you have a dual piping system where we can use the STP water for toilet flushes apart from car washes and gardening, it reduces the requirement quite significantly. Apart from that, tap aerators in my community, we didn't leave it to the individual houses. Again, when I was through BAF, I had implemented this system, and we didn't even give it as an option to every household. At the community level, we bought aerators. They are very cheap. We bought it, even the best of aerators do not cost more than 100 rupees. We bought it at a community level. We distributed it at every house. And actually, we didn't distribute it. We got the plumber to go and fix it in every single household. That's how it's been done in many apartment complexes today. And if more and more communities can do it, that is very significant. And of course, many communities are very irresponsible with their swimming pools where they use potable water, even Kaveri water for their swimming pools. That obviously has to stop. And lastly, rainwater harvesting systems. In my apartment, when I took charge, the rainwater harvesting system was not functional. And it doesn't take much to set that right. At that point of time, I'd done it. So today, many communities have implemented these initiatives, whether it is aerators, water meters, properly functioning STPs, and using that water for multiple purposes, recharge wells, proper use of swimming pools, and ensuring that the rainwater harvesting system is working properly. All of this can contribute quite significantly and have been contributing significantly. If some communities have not initiated any of these initiatives, or even some of these initiatives, it's time to go ahead and do that. I would like to bring in Dr. Anant Kodavasal here. Dr. Anant is, to me, the foremost STP expert in this country, if not in the world. His firm, Ecotech, has been implementing, managing, and maintaining STPs. As I said, 1,500 to 2,000 million liters per day of treated water is available for the city. Dr. Anant, is that number correct? 1,500 to 2,000 MLD per day. In your experience, based on the centralized STPs and with the community and the decentralized STPs, is that a reasonable estimate?
It is a conservative estimate. In fact, in the decentralized urban STPs itself, in residential, commercial, malls, hotels, hospitals, education institutions, in Bangalore itself, I estimate there are more than 3,500 to 3,800 STPs. And approximately 400 to 500 MLD, million liters per day, are said to be treated, are meant to be treated in these STPs. So those are the numbers. But I do believe again that more than 85 to 90% of these STPs are dysfunctional to various degrees. Maybe they're not able to treat the entire quantity, so they may be throwing out untreated, semi-treated sewage into the environment. So these are the problems, and that makes it impossible for people to recycle and reuse the full potential from an STP.
In fact, that leads me on to the second question that I would have anyway wanted to ask you is, there are about 14 STPs that are run by the state government at various key lakes. I know Bellandur Lake is one of the biggest, but I understand there are 14 STPs that are operated by the state government. and the collective capacity of that would be about 1,500 MLD. And
Yeah.
as you said, more than 3,800 or possibly close to 4,000 decentralized STPs. I would believe that not just the decentralized STPs, but even the government STPs to a large extent are possibly dysfunctional. Is there a solution to it? What is your take on, can this be sorted out? And if it is sorted out, what can we do with the treated water? I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
I'm not an expert. I've not seen any of the government-run STPs of late. I had an opportunity maybe about 25 years ago to look at the KNC Valley STP. It was totally
That is the Koramangala and Chalagatta Valley STP.
Yes, it was totally dysfunctional at that time, but I'm sure it has improved quite a lot now with private participation and being run by private parties. So I think the performance is much better, and I can share with you in ITC, Devanahalli, we are running the treatment plant for them, and we contracted with the BWSSB. BWSSB has laid a pipeline from Yelahanka treatment plant, I believe, to the international airport for use of recycled water. We contracted to take up 200 KLD of that treated water, BWSB treated water for ITC, and we put up an advanced treatment plant, UF and RO, for our own use. 200 KLD we were tapping from that line. At that time, the quality was good initially, but later it started deteriorating. So this could be a problem with many of the government treatment plants. You may not be assured of guaranteed quality all around. So this could be a problem. Coming to the residential complexes, as I said, 85 to 90% not working. The problem here is, I do not blame the builders at all. The builders may be misguided by some of the consultants who may not be as competent to design good treatment plants. I have seen many of prestigious plants, many of the other big builders. They have spent more than what is required to be spent on a good STP, but ultimately not getting the results that they should be getting. So this is a dilemma. This is something I'm not able to understand clearly. And it applies across all big builders, big names. I don't want to name them, but they are across India now. So this is the case. They all spend more, but they're not getting the results. I'm not able to put my finger on why this is so. They use the wrong technology. So with your permission, let me just give you a little background, if I can show the first few slides of what the current situation is in Bangalore. Can I share my screen?
Sure.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So this is a review of STP technologies. There are various STP technologies available for application. In a micro level STP, in a mini STP, in a mid-level STP, small STPs, large STPs. Large STPs are in the municipal scale. So it is really quite necessary, absolutely essential to select the most appropriate technology, STP technology, for your specific application in the small scale decentralized. We all know one size does not fit all. Similar the case in STP technologies. One STP technology does not fit all sizes. It is dependent on the size and scale of the STP. So what are the three cardinal laws for a good STP? Proper design, proper engineering, proper operation and maintenance. These are the three big pillars which make an STP work on a sustained basis over a long term. The oldest STP which you run is for the Unilever Research Center here in Whitefield, which started its life as the Brook Bond Instant Coffee Factory. We are still running it for more than 35 years. So these three pillars, but are built on the foundation of selecting the most appropriate technology. The foundation is selecting the most appropriate treatment technology. As I said, which is the most appropriate treatment technology? I'll come to that a little later. There are more than 3,800 STPs in Bangalore and 500 million liters of sewage said to be under treatment. Wrong technology, we are not getting the results from these STP because of using the wrong technology. And within that technology, you have to use the correct design criteria. You can select the technology. I can do any technology, but I have to adhere to the design criteria specified for that technology and do the proper engineering, and then take up the operation and maintenance. Operation and maintenance also the key. These are the four, the foundation and the three pillars which make an STP work on a sustainable basis on the long term. And why most of the STPs are failing? Because of wrong technology. And therefore, people see little benefit because of the huge operation maintenance costs. And therefore, the STPs are not running at all. Similar the case in Pune, Chennai, Hyderabad, anywhere you go in India, this is the case. So there are certain diseases I'm diagnosed in Bangalore and the south of India. It's called SBR. It is wrong technology, SBR technology. In Pune and the western region, it is MBBR. It is MBR technology. And then not learning from past mistakes. I have seen many big builders in the west and the north, they use MBBR technology, but when they come south, they switch to SBR technology. Both are incorrect, inappropriate technology. Excellent technology for large municipal treatment plants, but totally inappropriate when applied to a small scale STP in residential complexes, commercial complexes, where there is a huge peaking factor. 40 to 50% of the daily average flow in any residential complex comes during the morning 3 hours, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. So we have to select a technology which can address those issues, specific issues that are related. So these are the problems we face. Over 2,500 crores of STP assets are lying idle in Bangalore. As I said, 85%. You just need to put in 20 to 25% of this figure and get more than 3,000 defunct STPs working, which will ensure future water security for Bangalore. Huge savings, economic benefit, water security, protect the environment, multiple benefits from a good STP. Communities can be up to 60% self-sufficient in their water requirement using in toilet flush, garden, car wash, common areas wash, and things like that. Break-even point, the operation maintenance cost for a good STP was about at 100 rupees per KL, it was 80 KLD and beyond. The STP is in the money. And if you have a large STP, anywhere between 300, 400, 500 KLD and more, it is a gold mine. And what needs to be done, even to rectify a dysfunctional STP, the average is about 50 to 60 lakhs you have to spend. But we always work out the ROI, the payback period. It is just a matter of months when you are buying water at 100, 120 rupees per kiloliter. So these are, so we work
Actually, I would like to just go back to that previous point, Dr. Anand. I would like to just stay there. I think one of the problems that we've been facing in the city is, the STPs are done more because there is a mandate from the Pollution Control Board and from the government. And invariably, everybody wants to do it because it is mandated, right? There is no interest or inclination to maintain it properly after that. As you rightly said, that's what has led to many of the functioning STPs having become dysfunctional over a period of time. Today, it's not actually
that is not really true, Srikant. The builders have spent, as I said, more money. In fact, when they do the SBR STP, the footprint is more, the tank volumes are more, the energy consumption is higher, and everything is higher. But they still prefer to go for SBR. I'm not understanding what is the reason.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, I made a mistake in explaining. I was not talking of the builders. I'm talking of communities. In various communities, people are not interested in maintaining it because they know that it's just a mandate and let's just get away with it. One of the things that we have to make people understand, or specifically communities understand, is, as you rightly said, it makes commercial sense. Today, the tanker waters are not available at 100 rupees per kiloliter.
Correct.
Today, it's minimum 150 to 200 rupees per kiloliter during the time of crisis. But even otherwise, the costs have gone beyond 100 rupees per kiloliter even in normal time frames.
Correct.
So effectively, for communities that are significantly dependent on tanker water, if they are able to make better use of their STP, and if they're able to reuse that water quite significantly, as you said, the incentive or the rationale could be more commercial than regulate. That's pretty much what you're saying here, right?
Yeah. It is always the commercial. The most enlightened, educated, high-tech communities do not care so much about the environment. Pardon me for saying so. It is all about money. But recently, there are people who understand the benefits of a good STP. Recently, we rectified a 400 KLD STP at Alembic Urban Forest in Whitefield. The community spent about 90 lakhs to rectify that STP, and they have recovered the money within a matter of 3 to 4 months because they were purchasing the entire 500 KL of water, tanker water. So that is the kind of economics we are talking about. Mind-boggling, but it is the truth. Same thing with the Phoenix Mall. Phoenix Mall in Mahadevapura, we are recycling 400 KL every day. So they are saving close to about 50,000 rupees per day running that STP properly because of the huge HVAC cooling water requirement. In all IT complexes, commercial complexes, the recycle reuse percentage goes as high as 80 to 85% of the STP output. That is the phenomenal delivery a good STP can give. So this is it. Savings in fresh water in a 650 KLD. You see we work out all these things. The payback, even for a brand new STP, is less than 330 days, 1 year, if you run the plant. And look at the reduction in the maintenance cost per flat per month if you have a good STP. 650 KLD STP is a gold mine, literally. So these are some of the benefits which we have to educate the people. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's my short thing. And this is across cities, not only in Bangalore. We are now operating in Chennai, Pune, Hyderabad. We have done a lot of audits of STPs in the Delhi NCR region. It's the same case.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Anant. And I want to sort of talk about one last point. So one, you clearly made a strong case for STPs and the 1,500 to 2,000 or possibly even higher MLD of water availability to be put to good use.
Correct.
But today, one problem that we see is the centralized STPs ultimately treat the water and let it out into the lake. The reuse of that water is becoming a big challenge. So I want to talk about this specific point from a futuristic perspective. I know that a country or a city like Singapore has actually done this to some extent, at least. I don't know to what scale. Converting STP treated water into potable water, advanced tertiary treatment.
Yeah.
In the past, I've interacted with people like Vikas Brahmavar, who's been talking about it. But there seems to be a big attitudinal issue or a behavioral or a mindset issue that we have seen. Do you see in the next few years the conversion of STP treated water into potable water, and that too at large scale for the city, emerging as a reality?
No, that is going to be the norm now within the next 5 or even less. Dr. Hariharan will know his TZ homes. We have been generating potable quality of water from the STP for the last 10 plus years, and people have been drinking that water. So it is not even a psychological issue anymore. I mean, when people are forced to make do with something, they will accept anything. This was the case even when 2006, when the mandate came to set up an STP and reuse for toilet flush. Many of the communities refused to accept it even for toilet flush because a psychological barrier. But at that time, what we used to do, for 15 days, we will not even let them know that we are recycling STP treated water. Only at the end of 15 days, we will reveal the fact that they have been using treated water, and there were no complaints. And then slowly people began to accept for use in toilet flush. Same is going to be the case for potable quality.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. The problem is I was talking of a larger behavior. People that I have talked to, right, they have a huge anathema to using STP treated water for potable water without realizing that the water that we actually get in the tankers, they actually come from the lakes, and they're probably sewage water which is not even treated, right, and that we consume for different purposes.
Correct.
Right? That's the state of affairs that we are in.
If you do a good advanced treatment plant, it will be as good as BWSSB Kaveri treated water.
Wonderful. And that's the key takeaway that I want to leave behind for everybody, saying STPs are actually a huge source of water for the city, not just any type of water, even potable water, ultimately, right? Of course, it's emerging now.
Yeah.
But Kirtibhai, to your point, one of the things that you had raised, what will BNP do? We are already constituting area sabhas. We are getting representatives from different residential communities. I'm very clear about my principle. Ultimately, citizens and government have to collaborate. One of the key things that we will do ultimately at the community level through area sabhas is encourage construction of more recharge wells and pits, ensuring that the STPs are functioning properly, and over a period of time, educate, build awareness around how newer STPs, advanced STPs can give more and more supply of water for the local communities and hence for the city. And that actually being commercially beneficial for the citizens, while that should not be the driving factor, but today that itself is a driving factor. with that, we can actually use this source of water as a significant means to solving our city's problems. Of course, this is all a little bit futuristic, but not too much into the future. Thank you for that.
So let me add one
you
more
know-
one more piece of information on this advanced treatment plant. In a fair-sized STP, once you have met the statutory norms of quality from the STP, if you want to put an advanced treatment plant, ultrafilter and RO, it adds another 40 to 50 rupees per KL treatment. So even then, you will be well within the 100 rupees per kiloliter tanker water cost. So you can generate your own potable quality water at a much lower price than the tanker.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Anand. And by the way, Dr. Anand is a
Shrikant Sahib, can
sorry,
I
Kirti bhai.
a second?
Yeah, Kirti bhai.
Yeah.
I'll just finish this. So I would say this that from my perspective, I consider Dr. Anand as a very important mentor and advisor for me. He's formally designated as an advisor to BNP as well. And I do periodically keep interacting with him to take these inputs. Today, of course, we find it difficult to sort of build that up as at a larger level till the time we actually get a few corporators in as well. But we are not waiting for that. Gradually, we want to build more and more awareness in communities and take these ideas and concepts at the community level through the area sabhas. We want to implement these, and not just for other civic communities and civic issues that we want to solve. Water as a huge source of problem for us. We want to do our bit to solve that problem through these area sabhas as well. Yeah, Kirti bhai, you were saying something.
No, just small little point, I think, because it's very topical. Because what Anand Saab is saying is absolutely incredible. If he says that investment of 90 lakhs in repairing or redoing, I think STP, and recovery period of 3 months to 6 months to 8 months, you're talking about magic. And I think what is very important is and I'm talking about short-term measures. Anand Saab,
Yes, sir.
if you could put together, I think, this arithmetic and the mathematics and economics,
Yeah.
the whole thing, we should do in the next 1 month, not only for Bangalore, next few weeks, a series of pamphlets or booklets or whatever to reach out to cities. Because believe me, the municipal councillors, when they hear this, they will understand it in no time. And MPs, when they see this, they will understand in no time, because what you're talking about is an amazing thing. It's all doable. The numbers you're talking about, no one is aware of.
Yeah.
And I think it's significant. So
Key.
after the meeting is over, Anand Saab,
Huh.
I'm going to kind of call you.
Yeah.
Or if you come to Bangalore or invite you to Ahmedabad, but let us work this out into how do we do it immediately, Hari Saab.
No,
Using
Kirti bhai,
Anand Saab as a resource person.
Kirti bhai,
Kirti bhai, we'll connect up offline. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Anand, we will definitely connect up offline. But
Sure.
Kirti bhai, the one point that I'm making is that we have known this for a while, but spreading that awareness and getting people to do it, just by awareness alone, it won't happen. It has to happen strongly through engagement at the community level, through community champions, who we are calling as Area Sabha members. Getting a buy-in from local communities is extremely important, and that requires consistent effort, consistent awareness building, consistent education, and over a period of time, consistent work, which is what we want to do through BNP as well, at least in the specific, actually not just in the case of water alone, in other areas. Sorry, Dr. Anand, one final word from you, and then we'll move to the next part of the
yeah.
presentation.
So the final word is this. When the STP guide was published in the year 2011 by the KSPCB, Pollution Control Board, authored by me.
Which you had authored. Yeah.
So I had highlighted that an STP is going to be the only guaranteed perennial source of water for 60% of a community's requirement in the coming years. Not
Amazing.
Kaveri, not groundwater, not the government agencies. So the STP is going to be the savior.
Sure. I absolutely agree with you on that. As I said, 2000 MLD, it's right now going substantially waste. And if you're able to use that, and just for context, to tell people, the requirement of Bengaluru is 1600 MLD if you have to use water at a nominal level. And STPs alone can give us 2000 MLD, right? So that's the power of what we are talking of here. I also believe that communities can do a lot more about recharging the groundwater. Today, a good part of the water runs off to other parts of the city, and that's why our borewells are going deeper and deeper, and we are not able to find water. As I said, in the case of my own community, the recharge wells that we have done have ensured that our borewells haven't gone dry for many, many years. So recharge wells are going to be an integral and an important aspect to recharging the groundwater as well. I wanted somebody from Biome to be part of this meeting as well, but I think Kirti Bhai has already invited Vishwanath Shrikantaya in a separate meeting. So I think that would have covered, that would have been covered in a separate meeting. So I'm not going to, cover that in this, session. So going on to what can government do? And of course, I would like to believe that they are one of the biggest culprits in this. I have put down a few points, which actually I don't want to go through right now. I would like to go to Dr. Hariharan Chandrasekaran. Honestly, I haven't seen what he has presented to the government yet. He's promised to share that today. Just for the benefit of all of you, to know who is the person that you're talking to. Dr. Hariharan Chandrasekaran was actually a real estate developer. He developed a set of communities, residential communities, under the brand name of Z Homes. And one community called TZ in the Whitefield area was constructed, I think, almost about 30 years back. And that's one of the most sustainable residential communities that I've ever come across, whether it comes to waste, energy, water, you name it. They are one of the most sustainable communities. They actually don't depend on anything for, on the outside world. In fact, I wanted him to talk about that concept, but he's already past all of that. Dr. Anant already covered some of that. He talked about how TZ is already using their, treated water, not just for car washing and gardening and all. They actually use it for portable purposes. But just to let you all know, he's the person who was the architect of, not just the architect and the builder of TZ Homes, which got done there. Again, Dr. Hariharan is not just a friend of mine, he's a mentor for me. He's the one who I turn to for ideas like these. But he has a few ideas for the government that he wanted to share. Over to you, Dr. Hariharan. Your ideas on what the government should be doing.
Thank you, and namaskar to all of you. Nice to be here in a rare, kind of a platform of this kind. You heard Anandji, he and I go back some 30 years. In fact, he did that one in TZ also. Now, what I will do is this. This is something that I was talking to Srikant this morning, and I told him that this is something that I have offered to the government. They have asked several people. I'm only one of many people that they've asked. The government is doing good things, as always. It's not like we can sit and berate the government. This is a 6-set agenda I offered them. And you know how it is with the administrators. You cannot present something in 10 minutes. You cannot get their ears and attention. This is what I gave them. The first slide will talk only about empowering both BWSSB and PCB. Karnataka is one of the best states when it comes to regulations that the Pollution Control Board has got. I'm not reading too many of these things, but somebody talked about Kere Mitras. There are Jala Mitras that we have had in Chikbalapur, some work that we were doing on the Dakshin Pinakani many years ago, 6-7 years ago. We had such people. We are telling the government to try and see if we can have city water wardens, about 500 of them. We've got 200 wards. How do we see that this is worked out? How can, say, even institutions like BNP come in and see that they pitch in with the government? They're willing to talk to whoever. It doesn't matter, across whatever lines. Widening the list of empaneled vendors. Anandji also spoke about it. SDP as a technology, there are multiple people who talk about coming and constructing things for you. We don't know what they're offering. And what is a good direction, or even a technology sometimes gets a bad name simply because you didn't have the right person handling it. I'm leaving it there. I don't want to say too much more on that one. The CMO is taken on to this. We are trying to see how we can persuade the Chief Secretary also to listen to this. He gave us an audience some time ago. Sureshji is here. He's, the chapter, he's the chairman today, national chairman for the National Building Code. And we are trying to see how at the state level, at the CS level, they can take up these 4 solutions. He's taken to it. He says, these seem simple. What do we do about it? You know what you all know, all of you without exception know what the state government has done now in Bangalore for, water efficient fixtures. You heard about it from the chairman of the Water Supply Board yesterday, day before yesterday also. RWH is another major one. People like TV Ramchandra, he should have been here in this meeting. He talks about how 75% of Bangalore's water can be met with only rainwater harvest. This is the second thing that we gave them. And this is something that should interest Anandji also. We are saying make a single bullet legislation where you will have every bulk water user, it doesn't matter what kind of building, have a septic tank and hold back the sludge. Do not transport sludge in your sewerage systems, is what we are saying. I can go into it as to the why and wherefore of it, but this is not the time for it or the forum for it. And we have given the science of water clearly tells us in the last 10 years that many of these systems have become dated. They have outlived their utility. If you look at, let us say, SBR, as Anandji told you, is a system in itself not any more valid and relevant. And he has brought in some adjuncts. I'm not talking about what he has done in order to see that you redeem some of the deficits that come out of STPs, SBR particularly. And every one of those systems use so much as energy. And what do they use the energy for? They're using it for aerating water. Ask yourself, how does your colic system work inside your own body? Why are we not understanding that water, wastewater, does not need any aeration and pumping of atmospheric oxygen? That's another story. I'm not discussing it here, but these are central issues on the science of water that we have been campaigning for at the WOW Action Forum, as well as at the IGBC and a few other places. Reduction of risks for sewage lines will be huge if you decided to make it sludge-free sewage. We are calling it SFS these days, and it's a guarantee against epidemics. It's another thing. Now look at this one. You know that last year when Yediyurappa was chief minister, he called a meeting with the chairman and the entire set of people. I was one of those people who was there at the BWSSB at that time, and all he said is, I don't care. We are at 42% as NRW or UFW. You have to bring it down to 20%, he said. 10 days later, Mr. Yediyurappa stepped out as chief minister. And then there were changes, and you know where we are today. Percent that BWSSB brought with a few things that they did has to be accelerated. We have to take it from that 12% to twice more, that is 36%, 3 times therefore of that 12%. And that will mean we will have 250 BLPD. 250 BLPD is 250 billion liters per day. And I will tell you, if you look at the third point there, somebody said 3 billion. Srikanth said that. The chief minister, no, the deputy chief minister said 260 crores. That is 2.6 billion liters. If you take it at 2.5 billion per day, that's 250 crore liters. We have 90,000 crore liters or 900 billion liters. If 250 billion liters, which is paid water, we are paid to bring it to Bangalore. We bring it 683 meters and about 80 kilometers. High energy cost up to 90 rupees per KL. And then we decide to lose it in terms of leakage and distribution. How do we stop this? Singapore has 10%, but that is not an example at all. We should not go and look at other countries. I think India has its own unique challenges. Government is doing good things, and this is something that can be enabled for BWSSB. They're very confident. They're saying, you give us some money and we'll see how we can bring it. And all of this can happen if there is one, and I told the chief secretary in another meeting, that we must have one good committee of people. And you know what his response was? All these people who come as experts do not give me any specific solutions, he says. Think about that. Think about that. It's easy for us to berate people in the administration. But when it comes to being in that seat, it becomes difficult to implement unless there are very specific bulleted things that are given to them and which are scalable. And when we talk scalable, it has to be simple. It has to be easily understandable down the line in administration as well as among engineers. And it has to be, unfortunately, ideas that also mean high expenditure because the politician will not accept it. I'm not wanting to get there. This is the next one we gave them. We are saying 75 LPCD. Sureshji has written in the chat box. Last Saturday we were talking and he said he's looking at the National Building Code and 85 LPCD. I have to someday sit with him and persuade him to make it 75 or even 70. And I've given you the reasons also for it. If you look at the 4 things that I have added here, aerators at 10%, Digitizing everything in your buildings will be 10% of saving. STP will mean that you'll use about 25%. Conservatively, I'm putting that. In some cases, it can be as much as 40%, depending upon the kind of density of the square feet, etc., that you're using in a building. And the last one I'm saying is only 15% or 2 months of your water requirement. We are saying if you add all this up, you know what the number is. It's showing 60%, right? And that means what? On your existing 150 or whatever, Srikanth said 300 to 400 liters. I know of villas which are using 4,000 liters per day. Yes, you heard me right. 4,000 liters per day. There are villas using right here in the city on Henry Road and other places. You're trying to see how they all want to think supply side. Remember that also. A lot of the things that Anandji said, Srikanth is saying, are all about demand side. And the last set, all green buildings. Okay, I'll leave this out about how we can incentivize the process. We are going from the IGBC, from the Indian Green Building Council. But I'm saying, forget this. This is the next step that the state government can take. Ban on new borewells, very good idea. Srikanth just now talked about lakes. There is a process that has started for 126 lakes. Yes, 6 lakes started, I think, last Monday. We have got totally 126 lakes where there are X number of open wells that are being put, open wells, in order to see that we recharge the shallow aquifer management systems. I call it SAM. And this SAM process will mean that because of this button, and I'm grateful to DK Shivkumar for having pushed this panic button, because action has come. And if we get these 126 lakes worked out, the program that internally the department is talking about, and this also includes some parts of KWSSB beyond Bangalore, it means that a lot of these shallow aquifer things will come. You talked about, Srikanth, equity. How do I reach water to the poor? There are ways that will happen. We are looking at equity of that kind also in the process of doing these things, and that will take an extended length of time for me to explain. The small things, 5 and 6 are very small things, but these are related to industry. How do I get every chiller plant to not work on air-based systems, but to work on cooling towers that are water-based, but they use treated water? Treated water today means RO. The small things like health-grade water or whatever that Vikas is selling is only 1%. There is no way we can scale that if we don't have that technology, distributed with many more people coming to play. The last set, individual. Srikanth, sorry, my submission to all of you is this. Individual consumption, behavior change is difficult, but we do not make measurable impact at all if only the middle class will do it. Forget about individual behavior change, and because what we need is far larger impact. In your home, any of you middle class homes now, flats and apartments, you're using approximately 500 units per month. And that is 60,000 liters of water for a thermal generation at some whatever coal-fired plant. How does that come about? You can check out the websites yourself. If you put 1 MWH and embodied water for generation of 1,000 units, therefore of power, you'll understand what I'm saying. And if I say 500 units in your home, somebody is producing 2,000 units to supply you that 500 units that you are consuming. Therefore, in your house, you are spending 60,000 liters without you knowing it as embodied water. What are you doing about that? Can you do anything about that? Can you change the way you live now? Impossible. Therefore, I'm saying this individual behavior is only cosmetic. It is not one that we need. Government will use this. If you talk like this, the government will use that to distract you from the real things that they need to be doing on bulk water waste or embodied water. Entire economy has to think demand side. From 1970, we have been thinking supply side. That is not what we should do. 1970 again, or was it 1969? Alvin Toffler wrote, Future Shock, and he talked about prosumption, producing and consuming in the same place. All apartments can do it, I guarantee you that. We are working today on maybe 17 or 18 projects. We don't work with residential people. And each of these places we are saying, do not take water from the grid. Do not buy tanker water. Do not take borewell water. I will leave that there. Thank you so much for listening to me. That's all I have to say just now. Thank you so much. I'll stop the share.
Thank you, Dr. Hari. Of course, all of us have our own views. I firmly believe that interventions have to be brought at every level. As I said, individual level, community level, builder level, and the government level. Yes, individual level, unless it goes on a mass scale, it won't make a difference. But I would not want to underestimate the power or importance of that. I've been hearing stories from Cape Town as to how people have brought about a behavioral change. predominantly driven by a huge government campaign around the crisis that's there and so on. So not to be underestimated at all, but I'm sure all of us have our own views on each of these. I would still want to propose the half bucket challenge to people, the aerators to people, ensuring that we do not end up wasting too much of the water at home, so on and so forth. So thank you so much for bringing in the perspective around what are the things that the government can do to bring about change. And you also talked about how some of these things can enable bringing the water consumption down to not just 135 liters per day, possibly even 90 or even 75 liters per day. I'm keen to see how that can be brought about. I would be very, very happy if we can get there. But all the best in your initiatives with the government. And as we move forward in our BNP journey, I will continue to tap into your expertise on that front to see how we can use some of these concepts to build awareness at the community level and bring about that change. Government citizens collaboration is the key in my view ultimately, and my firm belief is if there's a problem, you can't have one hand trying to clap and trying to find a solution to it. Government has to engage with citizens, and in the same way, citizens cannot just say that government alone has to play a role. We know what has happened in the past. Leaving it to just the government alone is disaster, which has manifested itself in many different ways, not just in the water crisis that we have, the garbage crisis, the civic communities, and the infrastructure that we have, so on and so forth. So now the key is how do we work together? And as I said, and I keep firmly believing in this concept of area sabhas. That's something that I've covered in a separate session and separate topic altogether. I firmly believe that area sabhas are going to be one of the most important conduits in the government and the citizens engaging with one another. And that it will manifest itself in many different ways, whether it's at a community level or at a lake level or any other level that we talk about. But I also want to learn from the example of what Dr. Annapurna has done in the Jakkur Lake. She and her group of citizens there, how did they go about working together with the government? How did the community and the group of citizens engage with the government to not just revive a lake, but do a bunch of things that actually resulted in that locality becoming water rich? And these are all examples that we need to take, learn, and slowly start implementing it in other areas as well. Dr. Annapurna Kamath from the Jakkur area, one of the most predominant lake warriors from the city, over to you. Please talk about your experience. I am very fascinated by that experience that you have. I would love for you to share it with the larger group, and I would like for that story to reach through to more and more citizens and communities across the city in a way that we can start replicating.
Yeah, so namaste everyone, and thanks for having me here. So, what the earlier two speakers spoke about, I think it is a combination of that I'm going to take, but it's on ground what you can do. So Jakkur is a role model for an integrated urban water management system. So here we have a circular, system where the domestic waste from upstream Yelahanka comes to the STP, and the STP is doing a tertiary treatment, and we're getting treated water for ecological services, but also it groundwater recharges. As per Bangalore University study, about 7 million liters per day is getting groundwater recharged. And the proof is in the open wells that we have and the bore wells that are feeding the tankers today, and the water that goes to various apartments during these crises. So this is what is happening. And then again, from the homes, it becomes sewage and goes back to the STP. And then it's, a circular kind of a system where water is not being wasted. It is being reused and given new life every time. So this model is something that the government had brought in during the rejuvenation phase itself. So BWSSB runs the STP here, and there's a wetland which was designed by TVR and other, scientists at the lake, which also does a filtering. It's like an extended STP, natural STP. That's also one of its kind that was initiated in Jakkur and now is being replicated in many lakes. And this, model, has become successful because even Jal Shakti Abhiyan, they had come for a modification of these water stressed cities into water resilient cities. And they had 5 action points. So one of them was traditional water body rejuvenation, which is happening at Jakkur because it's a 700-year-old lake. Itself is being treated and reused for ecological services. Then the third was rainwater harvesting, and lakes are the best way to do rainwater harvesting. They catch almost all the rain in the catchment area, and then they groundwater recharge. That's the next aim that Jal Shakti Abhiyan had, and afforestation. So lakes also help in afforestation because you can grow a lot of trees, which also helps in rains and water. So the cycle is kind of completed. So, that's when, a lake is a very important source for a community. So we overlook it as just a beautification or an aesthetic component. Like most of the citizens look at it as an aesthetic component in the community, but it is not. It is a water source, and kind of protecting this as a community can recharge all of our bore wells and the open wells and make sure that we get water throughout. So this is one concept that lakes can become. And we in Jal Poshan believe that, we have local communities should work for their local lakes, because it's important that they observe, monitor, and understand that water body 24/7, 365 days, to know what is happening. So they can then correlate the data. Recharging is happening. Is the borewell giving you better yield? This kind of things can happen. And that's how we are going about this whole thing. But in this model, the point that I would like to mention is water equity also, and the borewell issue that is coming up in the, chat box. We need to regulate, the borewells, because now you're recharging the lake, but if somebody is exploiting that water, then somebody else won't get it. So there's no water equity. So water security you're creating by conserving a lake, but what about, equal rights on that water for the community around it? So this is something that we really need to work on, because that's not happening. People who can afford a borewell will go on, rigging more and more borewells in their property. And then somebody who cannot do that will not be having access to water. So if lakes are conserved and a proper policy of water equity is put into place, I think we should be able to, solve this crisis of water. Coming to the government citizen, working together, at Jakkur, we've had a very good experience because we work closely with about 20 government agencies in the conservation model, out of which BWSSB is one important one and BBMP is another important one, because they are the custodians of the lake, and BWSSB provides the, treated water. So we've been having a very good experience working with government, as long as the citizen group has a clear intent and a clear mode of working with these governing agencies, and you go with an attitude to help and work as, it's like a collaborative effort, not like a corrective measure. Like I as a citizen will correct it. That's not the attitude. I as a citizen will collaborate with you to make sure my area has, these problems solved. So you have to become part of the solution, not part of the problem. Then government agencies are very much open to working with you. They extend all the support. You can bring innovation and create, so creative ideas also into the board. And this is what we have seen at Jakkur.
Thank you so much, Annapurna, for that. Truly appreciate. And what you guys have done in the Jakkur Lake, that too, along with the government and the agencies, is nothing short of remarkable. So kudos to you and your team on that. And I think these are all the lessons that we need to take and start implementing in, other lakes and other areas as well. And one of the things that you talked about resonated quite significantly with me. Lakes are natural rainwater harvesting systems, right? And then on top of that, if you're able to bring in the concept of recharge at that level, then the borewell system can be regulated and managed properly to also ensure equity. Instead of rampant and unregulated digging of borewells across, we create these water reservoirs, so to say, and we use those places to sort of dig the borewells and ensure that the water is coming out, but equally it's sort of getting replenished at that place. And then it becomes a perennial source of water for not just the people in that place, but for a larger catchment area as well. Right? So very important concepts. And at BNP, I firmly believe that the approach sometimes that people take that, all government agencies, government bodies, officials are incompetent and corrupt is not true. While yes, there is a fair bit of reality that we see from time to time. At a larger level, our own experience on various fronts is, when we go engage with officials, when we give them ideas, when we want to work with them, and when we show the intent to work with them collaboratively, they reciprocate. The problem is the political class, which has a different intent altogether. But the government agencies and officials, by and large, have been very, very cooperative, collaborative, and reciprocative. And that's another thought that I want to leave behind with all the participants, that rather than taking a combative approach with the agencies, if we take a collaborative approach, there are a lot of things that are possible. But of course, for that, citizens need to start getting involved, which anyway, we need to do that. But these are all the case studies and these are all the role model examples that we can take and we can work on. Thank you so much, Dr. Annapurna, for sharing your experience on that. Thanks, Dr. Anant, Dr. Hari, and Dr. Annapurna for sharing all your experiences. I would like to take a pause here to open the floor for questions. We already see that there are a few Q&As questions that have come on the Q&A window. I think we can start taking some of those, and then after that we will leave the floor open for more and more questions. Any of you have any questions, please feel free to post it in the Q&A window. It'll be easier for us to look at it. So I'm just going to go quickly through some of the questions. Somebody, Jayesh Chapekar, has asked, what do you mean by RWH system? One that stores water as opposed to discharging it to recharge wells? Absolutely. Rainwater harvesting is something that collects water and stores it in sumps, as opposed to recharge wells, which actually do not store water anywhere but sends it down to the ground, which replenishes the groundwater. The two ultimately harvest rainwater, but in different ways. One goes to the ground and one sort of stores it in sumps. Anonymous attendee has asked, please clarify if the STP of public sector and private for PST level and if recycled water is made available for use by communities. I think that question has already been answered, where today a good part of it at the community level is being used for gardening, car wash, and to some extent through dual piping into toilet flushes also. But a good part of it is actually not reused. So it goes waste, and same is the case for centralized STPs. And that's where at some point Dr. Anant talked about how some of these STPs can be converted into advanced or tertiary treatment plants, which can give us potable water, which means 100% of these STPs can be used for reuse, at 100% level, not just 30, 40, 50% levels. Can constructed wetlands work at community level? And if yes, how does one determine the area required per person? Dr. Anand, do you want to take that? Is there a possibility of wetlands work at community level that's possible at all? I'm not competent to answer that. Dr. Anand, you are on mute. You have to unmute and...
Sorry, I'm not an expert on that, but we have an associate in Hyderabad, Gangadhar Ganges Reddy, who does these wetlands and other things. But he also believes that not at the community or the metro environment that is feasible. So we have tied up with him for these kind of STPs, decentralized STPs. He does these wetlands when there is a lot of open land available. So that cannot be implemented, I believe, in towns and cities in the metro kind of environment.
Got it. Thank you so much for that. On another question, it's interesting to note SBR and MBBR won't serve. What will? I think that's a very detailed topic. Dr. Anand has already covered in his presentation that there are different types of technologies that will work for different types of situations. The best thing is for any of you to reach out to Dr. Anand separately. His company is Ecotech. So you can do a Google search, reach out to them. So if you have an STP that's not functioning properly, some of those can be repurposed or they can be even repaired to bring it to the right technologies. So I'm sure Dr. Anant and team would be, in a position to do that. Dr. Anant, is that a fair statement to make?
In fact, we have done more than 70 such surgeries. I call them precision surgeries, where we have converted, upgraded SBR, MBBR, even high-tech membrane bioreactors we have converted to extended-ation. And we are operating and running them.
Wonderful. So any of you interested, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Anant, and his team can come in and get involved in, as he said, doing surgery on the dysfunctional STPs as well. What would be the cost of tertiary treated STP water for potable quality water? I think Dr. Anant, you already answered that. From whatever I understood from you, you said if there's an existing STP and if it has to be repurposed or if you have to convert that into an advanced tertiary treatment plant, the additional cost is about ₹50 per kiloliter. Correct. Is that that's the right understanding?
It's a fairly good sized STP. That will be the range. It depends on the size again. A smaller STP, then the cost will be a little high.
Yeah,
Let me
Dr.
help
Uday Kelkar has
some of
already
you.
provided an answer there also, where he says the cost varies from 15 to 32 rupees per KL depending on the process selected. But
Srikanth,
even if you take 50 rupees, that's not much.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Srikanth, if you
yeah,
don't mind, I will
Hari,
step
please.
in. Yeah, just to
Sure,
say
sure,
this
please, Hari.
much. We all get caught up in this cost business. Which vendor is giving what? Why am I paying so much money? All this. Today, used water is the new oil, is something I said earlier. Today, if you have 100 KLD, let us say, you are, say, 150 flats as an apartment. You know, and you don't have an STP. The cost of doing it, he will know better, will be about 35, 40 lakhs, could be, the max will be about 42 lakhs. You're buying water at 150 rupees per kiloliter. You're buying 36 million liters. You're spending 54 lakh rupees, therefore, and 45 lakhs is the capex on this. In less than 15 months, you get your money back. Can you get a better proposition in any business you run where an IRR is running at 80%, 100%? And then we quibble about 50 rupees per kiloliter. Why should I pay 50,000 rupees for something? All this nonsense we do as consumers. Consumers coming without any lack of any knowledge or understanding of the money that is involved. Forget about the planet and sustainability. This is a huge potential opportunity for any bulk water user to make money out of it, right? That we are not understanding. Today, I talk to companies beyond this. I am telling them, forget about this 50 lakh liters or 50 million liters or 100 million. If you are 200 KLD, it's 72 million liters. There's a company we are looking at now, 400 KLD. I am not interested in any technology and solution. First, I'm interested in money. 400 KLD is about 150 million liters. How do I give them water without them buying tanker water in a way that they don't use bore wells and they also reuse whatever from STPs, with the technology on STP being the right one, as Anandji alerted, warned everybody. So if you know how to ask your questions, you know to solve the problem more than half the way. Over to you, Srikanth.
No, I totally agree with you, Dr. Hari and Dr. Anand. It makes a lot of commercial sense, but then for that to get into people's minds and then to sort of implement that, and having been part of the community myself, ultimately taking everybody along, because if you have to invest upfront for anything, even if it's obvious, it's a long process. So anyway, through a decentralized mechanism, through, as he said, area sabhas, we hope to sort of solve for those problems over a period of time. Kshama has asked a question: how can existing apartment complexes 10 to 15 years old implement RWH, estimated expenses and break-even time? Kshama, I don't think we'll be able to get into the operational aspects. There'll be enough organizations that will provide you, RWH systems. By the way, RWH systems in apartment complexes are mandatory. So if it's not there, I think it's time to
in only 20 seconds. RWH for 1,000 square feet, where you get 1 lakh liters in a year with 1 meter rainfall that Bangalore gets, you will not spend more than 20,000 rupees. 1,000 square feet, 20,000 rupees. You don't know how to get that? You please call me and I will tell you where to get a person who will do it for you.
There you go. So any of you
1
want to
lakh
get connected
liters.
with
and you are paying for that 100 into 150. You guys are paying, you know how much that is there for. Class 6 flats, 15,000 rupees you pay every year. You save therefore that money.
RWH is absolutely a no-brainer. That's something that it actually doesn't cost much. It's a very simple system to implement. It doesn't even require any complicated thing. But I'm sure Kshama there, as Hari has also said, it's it doesn't cost much. It's fairly simple. But we can take it offline. Some of our team members can also help you out with identifying vendors separately offline. Anonymous attendee has congratulated Chandra, excellent, Hariharan, for the golden 6 action areas. That's Suresh. Makaran Booth has a question: panel, why not telescopic water billing? Almost free for basic family consumption, higher for higher use. Any problems, issues with such billing? Absolutely not. I firmly believe that that's the way to go. This is one area where the government has got it absolutely wrong. In apartment complexes, for example, they charge 22 rupees per kiloliter flat, right? And that's as ridiculous as it gets. You should actually incentivize people for lower usage and penalize people for higher usage. If you actually are able to see the screen now, the second point I have put in here: change the water billing model. That's something that BWSSB has to do. And it's not rocket science, right? a house that uses less than 6 kiloliters per month has to be incentivized quite significantly. And then anybody who's under 10 kiloliters is sort of at a reasonable level. Once you start crossing the 10 kiloliter mark, you are getting into dangerous territory. And if there are people who are using 12, 15, 20 kiloliters per month and all, there should be a significant penalty. So that's something that they should think about. In apartment complexes, I can straight away tell you, they have a ridiculous billing model. There's only one slab, 24 rupees per kiloliter. Now, nobody even thinks about whether I should consume less, more. How do I go about doing that? So it's a great point that you brought about, Makarand Booth, on that. I didn't cover this since we were running out of time, but from a government perspective, they absolutely should do it. In fact, I had given these recommendations to BWSSB even as of 3 years back, but change is something that's gradual, that will take time. We will see how that goes. Coming back to the next set of questions, the next one that I'm seeing, okay, how do I get a link for registering? I don't know. If you're part of the mailing list, if you're here, you'll already receive a link through email, so that should not be a problem. Rajesh Subramania said there are a lot of homes which have 2 water connections. Should we have these in water crisis situation and have a equitable distribution? I'm not even sure I understand what 2 water connections actually mean, because every house typically will have 1 water connection. You will have one RR number that you will have. So I really don't know, but the point of equitable distribution is absolutely understood. In fact, today I and my team, we met the BWSSB chairman. We talked about how linemen in different areas actually hold houses to ransom. They let more water out to people who pay them a bribe, or pay them extra, and they deny water to people who do not or are not willing to pay to them. So these are all issues that have to be tackled at a larger level. 2 water connections per home is actually illegal. You can't have that. So I don't know what that means, but overall, there are lots of things that happen in the city which are, not exactly in the realms of legality. And today, when we met the BWSSB chairman, he's a new person, Dr. Ram Prasad Manohar, who has taken charge. He took charge just about 2 months back. What he has promised is there's a helpline 1916, which you can use to report any kind of illegalities, whether it's from water tankers who are charging you more, or whether linemen who are holding you to ransom, or homes that are illegally tapping into water. Let's use 1916. If you are not able to find any resolution on that, come back to us. We want to engage with the BWSSB more and more to make it more and more equitable. So that's the answer. Unless, of course, any of the other panelists have anything more to add to that. Yeah, so then I'll move on to the next question.
Srikanth, sorry.
Yeah, Hari.
To all of you, since as many people are still here, we have about 60 plus people. Please know that it does not help you to resist these regulations from the PCB if you're all from Bangalore. Please understand that if you want help on what the solutions are, there are enough people who can provide that for you, and we provide it free of cost. Although we shouldn't do that. Alltech Foundation does that. You make money out of it. Why on earth will you not pay for it? This is a commercial proposition for you. This is not a regulatory thing that you need to be resisting. This is a great opportunity for all of you in Bangalore, where you are paying 150 to 200 rupees per kiloliter, right? There are places in Bangalore, and I'm sure some of you live in such places, where you're paying 250 rupees per kiloliter, which is nothing for you guys. But in IRR, you get is so fantastic if you make this producing and consuming happen. Sorry, Srikanth. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Venkatesan Natarajan has a question broadly which talks about complacency on the part of the government if the citizens keep doing more and more. Point well taken, Venkatesan.
No, not at all well taken, Srikanth.
No, hold on. Hari, I think I have a slightly different point of view on that.
Yeah.
The point that I would like to make is, as I said, everybody has to do their bit. But I take your point. The government has not come under enough pressure. So, Hari, I know that you are engaging with the government, but I know that the government should have done a lot more.
No, but it's not that because I'm engaging, I feel that way. I'm only saying does it make sense for you to spend 17,000 crore rupees and get water from Etinhole? Is that what you want from your city?
But
Do you
but
understand
Hari,
what that money is
your
coming
point,
from?
you and I have had conversations on that. At the community level, whatever we do, we benefit from that, and I think that's a point that we have already communicated through this session. The bigger point is there are lots of other things that the government does or does not, which creates problems at a larger level, and that includes things like lake encroachment, improper billing system, right? Lots of leakages that happen. So all that I can say is that the pressure on the government is something that at least BNP as a party, as I said, even today we met BWSSB chairman. We will keep putting pressure on the system. Whatever they need to do, they will do. In fact, interestingly, there is a Junasandra lake where some people have encroached along with the active collaboration from the elected representative there. They grow eucalyptus trees there first, they drain out the water, then they start throwing in debris there. And at some point they say, hey, there's no lake that existed here. And in active cahoots with the government, with the elected representative, some of these local mafia guys, they end up converting that into commercial properties. That's how many, many lakes have disappeared. I know one of my friends who's been fighting this battle for the Patandur Agrahara Lake, Sandeep Aniruddhan, Junasandra Lake, we are fighting that. Government on the part of the government, if citizens keep doing more and more, they are happy to just keep letting them do whatever they want. But these are all battles that we are looking to fight. We will fight. There are different battles to be fought at different levels. That's all that I would like to do. So absolutely, we will not let the government, go unaccountable or unanswered in the new system. It will take time. But collectively, if we keep putting pressure, I'm sure a lot of changes can happen. Krishnamurthy Kekinathan has said, can we create Bangalore as a sponge city? I don't know what that specifically means, but I presume that it means how do we absorb the water that comes in and use it for our internal purposes, which is what I think this whole session was all about, if that's what the question was about. And I think we have already had a lot of ideas that came in from different panelists and from myself as well. Venkateshan again has a question. Can Dr. Anand put in place a training program to create a future gen of tech experts for us to assist them with auditing the technologies deployed? In fact, Dr. Anand has been offering his services to the Pollution Control Board. He's been engaging with the Pollution Control Board as well. So there is a system that's being tried, but it has not delivered great results yet. And we've been sort of going back to square one on that. Dr. Anand, do you want to quickly come in on that front and give you sort of share your inputs on that?
He's not here. He's left.
Oh, he's left. Is it okay? I didn't realize that at all. By the way, it's already 7:36. All that I can say is that speaking on his behalf, I've been interacting very closely with him on some of these. That whole technical expertise for a variety of different reasons hasn't worked out so far, despite Pollution Control Board having put together a program also. So I think the solution lies at the community level. There are enough and more organizations that already have the training expertise. Today, there are lots of organizations, apart from Dr. Anand's organization, that can actually help prepare STPs and maintain them. That's what we are also working towards through these area sabhas that we want to put in place, where ultimately we transmit that knowledge through these conduits and channels. So we'll probably take that offline in terms of how that can be implemented. Meenal Kavale has asked a question: is it advisable to dig small recharge pits at frequent intervals at bottom of tertiary stormwater drains?
Yes,
Meenal,
please. You should do that because it gives you what are called rainwater harvesting microstructures. It will do the sponge that somebody talked about, in the sense that your first 10 meters to 20 meters, if you're able to hold water there and use that, I call it green storage as against static storage with concrete tanks. If you're able to do that over the 2 monsoons or 3 monsoons that land will get, you will be able to get water from the open wells itself in the non-rain months. You are very fortunate in Bangalore to have 8 months of annual rainfall. If you are sitting in Ahmedabad, you get the same 1000 mm rainfall, but you get it in, say, 4.5 months. Here we get it between April and November. November gets 43 mm rainfall. April gets 45 mm rainfall. And then the rest of the months gets. So you get 8 months because of the privilege of return monsoon also giving us rain. please do as many such things as open wells as possible, because that is the sponge that you need in the city. Over to you, Srikanth.
Thank you so much. And I would suggest that people start doing it at their community level. And we are beginning to engage with BBMP, and we are trying to actively work with an organization like Biome to see if it can be done in a lot of public places. It's absolutely not just advisable. I think it's something that, as Hari said, it's very, very important if you have to convert this into a spawn city. So Meenal, of course, you are part of our team already. We will
In fact,
again
for
take this
every acre,
offline.
as a rule of thumb, if you have 5 open wells of 1.2 to 1.5 meter dia, simple ring concrete ring wells, with depth of no more than 10 meters to 12 meters. In Chennai, for instance, which is a wonderful soil bed, given the watershed that it has been for 500 years, in Chennai, we are now taking it up in every ward in a way that for approximately for 1 acre, we get 5 such open wells, depending wherever you are in each of the wards, you know how to work it out. If you have parks, we must have in every park.
Yeah.
In fact, he mentioned Vishwanath. Vishwanath has now, 5-6 years ago, he said 1 million or 10 lakh open wells in the city. Now, India government has taken it up. They're saying 126 wells. Lakes, and at each lake, we are going to have at least 30 open wells. This is an estimate I'm telling you, could vary a little bit. Over to you, Srikanth.
Thank you so much. And Annapurna, you want to chip in there, given that you also were involved in that recharge well in the Jakur Lake. Any input from your side would be welcome. You're on mute. You can unmute and.
Yeah, so there is this project that Biome is doing at the Jakur Lake now. We just dug a open well and got water at about 15 feet, but they dug a little deeper to get more water. And we're also trying a filter borewell project to just see how it works around lakes. This is more of a pilot program, which if it is successful, we would be able to do it around most of the lakes, which are, as I told you, a source of rainwater harvesting as well as the recharge, so we'll get, rather than, the changing the mindset is also easy this way, because people know it's filtered water. They don't think of it as treated water. So you're drinking the same water, but in a filtered format. So you don't even have to talk to people about mindset change. They will be ready to drink that water any which way.
See, soil is the best filtration system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why will we go for complex other systems?
Yeah.
People talk to me, technology, startups. I'm saying technology is 2000 years old. Please adopt
natural technology, the ground technology.
All we need to do is put ring wells, don't cement it, let water flow at that -3, -5 meters, and don't do for what is over 100 meters does not belong to any living species. It belongs to the earth. You must read a short history of nearly everything by Bill Bryson. And the man is very clear of what the earth needs as that, whatever of water, in order to keep the soil the way it is. Soil is only 500 million years old. The youngest it is, if the world is 5 billion years old. The thing, therefore, is to see that this connect between soil, water, and ecology is protected for our sake, not for the sake of the earth. Otherwise, how do you get water into the future? Over to you, Srikanth.
That brings us to the last question. Somebody has talked about STPs. Again, it's a common thing that we've been having for a long period of time. Government is now saying that no STP needed for projects with up to 150 flats. It's actually not 150, it's 120 flats. Is it not self-defeating? So yeah, you can always have two sides to it. But my personal view is this, that as long as all the apartments, the smaller ones, are connected to the underground sewage, and even the 120 flats and above, if all of them start having proper sewage treatment plants, it's more than good enough. As Dr. Anand said today, the biggest bane of the city is we have too many micro STPs that have become dysfunctional. Right? So I'm not even sure whether it's a. Sorry, Dr. Hari, I'll finish this. Yeah. So there are always, going to be debates around what is an ideal size of an STP to manage, right? The one reality that we all need to live with in the city is that lots of these small STPs have not been working well, right? Now, at some point, given that Dr. Anand and Hari and others have talked about the commercial viability of STPs, tomorrow, if people are feeling the pinch of the water cost going up, I think many of them will automatically start doing it, at least for that reason. But with the way Bengaluru is now developing with more and more larger projects, if the ones which are 100 flats and above also start implementing it, it can make a huge change. But I personally believe that with the cost of water going up further and further to the levels of 100, 150, 200 rupees per kiloliter, it automatically becomes an incentive for people to do it. What you have to understand is there is another side to the story, that the small STPs, and as the other person who raised the question said, lack of technology expertise being there, it's becoming a huge challenge. We are better off having lesser number of fully functional STPs than more number of dysfunctional STPs. That's my personal point of view. I'm sure Hari always has a different point of view compared to me. Happy for you to bring in that perspective.
Yes, thank you, Srikanth. See, as a governance person yourself at some of the finest levels, you'll understand why the government has done this. See, government is saying, we discussed sometime maybe 2 weeks ago, or maybe 10 days ago, and in a meeting, what emerged from some of the administrators very correctly was, let us leave out the smaller players. 100,000 liters we leave out. See, somebody said 150 flats. If you take same NBC, if I took, let us say 600 liters per home, it will become 100,000 if I have 150 flats. So we have not said 120 or 150 flats. We have said 100,000 liters of discharge.
Correct.
Now, why did we say that? We said, see, you must all know that if I'm talking 100 KLD or 100,000 liters per day, I'm talking 36 million liters in a year. Now, that is our 36,000 M cubed. So we said, we'll leave out these small players. We will attack the big players. However, to all of you, I must tell you, we are now telling ourselves, we have to bring these 100 KLD also later on. I think people have quit. There are 49 people still. So please remember that 100 KLD is also being attacked later, not now. Because we don't have the, you know that, Srikanth, government, how will
absolutely, I think we are on the same page on that. We are absolutely on the same page. So right now the focus should be on the larger ones and ensuring that they are functional. I think it's already 7:45. We are 15 minutes past our schedule, because we typically have it these for 1.5 hours. I would once again thank Dr. Ananth. He had to leave at 7:30 for another session that he was having. That was a scheduled time given to him. So thank you, Dr. Hari, and thank you, Dr. Annapurna, for joining. And of course, thanks, Dr. Kirti Bhai, as I call him, Dr. Kirti Shah. He's not a doctor, I presume. So we'll just call him Kirti Bhai. We'll call him Kirti Bhai only.
Yes, Srikanth, he's one of the most educated because he doesn't even hold a degree.
He doesn't need the degree to show that, but yeah. And thanks, Dr. Bhuma, and thanks, Chitrakshi, for arranging this as well. And thanks to all the participants for having patiently heard us out over the last 1 hour, 45 minutes. Kirti Bhai, back over to you for closing remarks and concluding this.
No closing remarks. It was absolutely stunningly useful and educative kind of session. And thank you, everyone, Srikanth Saab, Hari Saab, Annapurna ji, and others. Wanted to say two things. One is this, that, I think hearing you people, I realize that there is no need for this crisis. If we done things rightly, and even now do things rightly, I think, we could get over the crisis in no time. So, and I think that's a very important message, that that there have been series of mistakes, and I think, the wrong things done. And I think, if we correct them, we will be able to not be facing this crisis. And I think, this particular message of positivity, I think, has been very important in this session, and I'm very grateful. Let me kind of tell you this, that as I started saying, that this was the first session today done by Srikanth Saab and BNP. We are running a second session tomorrow on same subject, same title, and largely people from Bangalore. And I think it's going to be moderated by Vishwanath, whom you all know, who's an advisor to BioMe Environmental Trust. And then we have a remarkably resourceful team of Arvind Lakshmaya from Azim Premji University. We have Professor Mohan Kumar, who is the head of Technical Approval Committee of BWSSB, and we have Shreya Nath, who is the managing partner of Urban Waters. So we have a remarkably good panel, and of course, almost a legend to hear tomorrow. So please try and come and attend. I'm also very grateful, Shrikant Saab and Hari Saab, that today's session was absolutely on target, in the sense that we're talking about doing things, that you spend so much more time on prescriptions and solutions on how to kind of go ahead. So thank you very much. Thank you, Bhumaji, and thank you.
I'm glad we were able to live up to your expectation, Kirti Bhai. You had set a very high bar, and we are happy to have met that.
No,
This-
You're being nice and courteous and polite, and you should, which is absolutely
very-
right.
Nothing. Believe me, it's
Kirti
very,
is
very-
like that, you know. That's why I love this man. He gets extremely anxious about things. People like Boomer working with him now in the last few months. But that, you know, he's like Rajaji. You get a comma wrong, it hassles him. For, you know, and he will hassle the daylights out of everybody else also. But the interesting thing about him is he punishes himself most. People don't understand that he's punishing himself most. See, he went off. He's not even there now. You know.
Yeah. But
Oh,
anyway,
what a
thank you all
man
for
he
a
is.
wonderful session. And
We'll
you
catch
know,
up, Srikanth. We have a meeting, and
absolutely.
you and I have to
Yeah.
catch up sometime. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you all
of
for
you.
participating today, and wish that a lot of these things can be implemented and initiated. Have a good weekend all. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, Bhuma. For you, I know you're doing some good things. I don't respond to those things there, but good that you're driving things.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks to Srikanth. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.